Hello and hello everybody, my name is Lucy and welcome to Books and Brushes. So today is my May wrap up and guess what? I'm back guys! I have read a total of 4 books this month plus a little bit of extras we'll get to later. But let's start with the first book I read this month, which was The Everlasting Rose by Danielle Clayton. Now I talked about The Bells in my April wrap up. I've talked pretty exclusively about The Bells, so if you want to hear a more in-depth review of that book or this series, I recommend watching that one, because there's not too much more I think I can say about this series. Everything I said in that wrap-up kind of corresponds in this book as well. The same writing style, the same kind of pacing of story and story arc, the same characters, it is the same vibe. It's basically part 2. So it's not that much different, and it's very difficult to try and describe this book all over again without repeating myself. But yeah, I still loved the writing style. This one had a slightly new take, what with being on the run, disguises and intrigues like, do you leave another man behind? So there was a lot of interesting things to go into there. I wish Remy was a little bit more featured, but you know, that was a good plot point. I did really enjoy that. And I loved the new addition, the new characters, the ladies. I won't go into more details. If you have no idea what this book is about, then I'm just spouting rubbish. Essentially, The Bells is about a group of sisters who have magical powers to restore a person's beauty and alter their appearance. They are like the high of society who work incessantly to help redeem others and give them the beauty that this society so desperately desires. And this book, slight spoiler alert, this book continues on now that that dream has shattered. She is no longer in the palace, and it's about saving the world from an evil queen. That's about it. I think that's alright. I think that sums it up without major spoilage, but still gives you a synopsis for this. But yeah, I really liked this series. I'm glad it was a duology and not like a trilogy. That would have been way too long. But it was a slow read. I enjoyed it, and like I said, there's not much more I can say about The Everlasting Rose, just that it was fun to read and I'm glad I read the both of them. As I said with The Bells, I am a little bit disappointed there's not as much in-depth thought and analysis on the topic of beauty and vanity, because that's one thing I was looking for in this series. One thing I was really excited to see, but I didn't really get that. I mean, it's not a detriment to this book, it's more like something I had hoped to find and it just wasn't there. But then again, that was my envision on another book, you know? If I wanted to see a book like that, I'd have to keep searching or I'd have to write it. Because I love that topic and I think it's so interesting and so emotionally in depth. But yeah, I didn't get that, but that's not really this book's fault. That's kind of just my own wish and wants. Overall, The Bells and The Everlasting Rose get a 7 out of 10. So next up, I finally decided to take the plunge and do a reread. I know, special. So I really wanted to read Map of Days and haven't been able to because it's been a long time since I read Miss Peregrine's. So guess what, I went and reread. That's right, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. Now, I last read this in 2017, I believe? I think it was 2017, and it was an ultimate all-time favourite. I absolutely loved it. It was my top 5 of the year, and I did love this series, and I'm really pleased to go back to it. It's such a fun read, and it's one of those books that you can reread so happily and so easily. And I'm really enjoying being back with the Peculiar Children and Jacob. And it's even cooler because I know what's happening and I know what's gonna happen and all the inflections and all the clues. It's really fun, and I love the world this is set in. I love the style of writing. The pictures obviously are really cool. And I love that it's set, you know, in Wales, in Cairnhome, because so many things in this book relate to me. Family from Wales, little Welsh island. I live on an island. Cairnhome, my last name is Cairns. Oh, and there's a dog in this called Pompey, and guess where I'm from. So many things in this book, and I just love the start. I love the kids, I love the story they go through, I love Jacob's power. I think it's so interesting, and there's just so much to be said for this series. I'm really enjoying a reread of this. That means I've also read this month Hollow City, another one of the Miss Peregrines. This is the second book. Don't worry, A Library of Souls will be guaranteed to be in the June wrap-up, but this is as far as I got in May, and again, at the end of every book it's like, can't be stopping there. Nope, you want the next one. I just love that evolution of Jacob's power. I think it is brilliant. Again, if you don't know what this book is about, because conveniently I always seem to forget that part, this series is about a group of peculiar children, basically children who have abnormalities or powers, and they live in this orphanage in this time loop. Basically they live the same day in September 1940 during the war, over and over and over again. It keeps them safe from the Whites and the Hollows, monsters which are out to get them for their peculiar souls. And they're invaded, they're on the run, and this boy named Jacob, who's from Florida, he travels to see these kids because of his grandfather used to be one of them, and all the mysteries that surround his grandfather he needs to solve. He solves it, and in the process gets mixed up in the entire war and the battle that goes on between the Peculiars and the Whites. And it's just this epic adventure of him trying to help Miss Peregrine and her peculiar children and getting mixed up in all kinds of trouble, and I absolutely love it. I love the morals in the story, I love the characters. Jacob is just so wholesome. I love Emma. I just think it's such a beautifully written story. Like I said, just wholesome. It's one of those books that you read and it makes you excited, it makes you happy, and it makes you feel warm, and it makes you scared and excited and just all the emotions, but it's such a fun read, and I am really enjoying going back through it all again to read it for a reread. And then when I get to the end of Library of Souls, I can read the new book, which I haven't read, Map of Days. So I'm really glad I got to this. I do not regret this at all. Not a waste of time, because I'm enjoying them so damn much. And lastly, a book I read on my Kindle. So while out and about this month, I was bored and I picked up a book from my Kindle and managed to read it in the month. It wasn't a long read, but I read it over a few days, I think. And that is The Boy Who Painted the World by Melody J. Breeman. This story, it was such a short, wholesome, sweet little story, so unique. Something I don't read. This is like not a book that I would usually read. It's not a YA for a start, it is definitely a middle grade children's story, but a beautifully written one at that. So different and perfect, and I loved it for what it was. This book is about a little boy named Indigo who is homeless. He was abandoned by his mother on the street and is trying to survive, living every day, and he happens to have a passion for art. Whenever he finds a crumpled piece of paper or a pencil, he draws, and he keeps all of his drawings, and they're like his most prized possessions. One day, his best friend, a girl who's been looking after him since his mother abandoned him, a girl who's also homeless, she gets taken away, and he goes on this whole adventure trying to figure out where his home and what his life means to him, what his world means to him. And he meets a bunch of really interesting and caring characters along the way, and it's so sweet seeing him develop his love for art and his idea for his dream to become an artist, and him growing up after everything that's happened to him as a boy. I love this story for so many reasons, and if you've watched any of my videos, you know I love books that have art in them because I'm an artist, and it's not a theme you get super often, but it's just, I love it. Obviously I'm a bit biased, but the theme of art is just so cool to read about, and this one, it is like the essence of the story. This boy who loves art, it's his entire passion, and you can feel it, you can see it through the whole thing. And I love the Melody in this book, how she wrote about art and how she described it in its different forms. You know, she talks about graffiti art, she talks about drawing, and there's a professional painter, there's all different forms and aspects of art. And it's talked about with such respect and adoration and enjoyment. And it's not something I've really read much before, you know. Art is a passion, and it's so interesting to read about a character whose passion is art. Also, this book was so sweet because of Indigo. He was such a cute character, so real. You're right there with him through this whole journey, and your heart really feels for him during all the moments, like all the worst moments. Your heart really bleeds for him, like this boy is, you know, abandoned, and so right from the off You have that, you want him to succeed, and you know he's not been giving anything in life. He's got nothing. And yet he's still so hopeful, and he's still just this really sweet boy. And it's just, I love this story and the way it progressed. And all the different characters we meet. Craig and Grace and was it Keisha and James, I think? And I think this story describes something about humanity. It just through this one little boy, his small little world, it captures something so much broader. I love the topics it goes into, I love the discussions it creates, and it's just one of those wholesome reads that makes you so, again, kind of like Miss Peregrine's, but in a different way. It makes you so happy and loving, and kind of, it makes you think about things, and is a children's book, but I recommend it to all adults because it's just written so beautifully and so seamlessly. And it's a book I've never heard of. I doubt any of you have ever heard of this book, but it's a short book, and I do recommend The Boy Who Painted the World. And that is my wrap up for May. I'm so glad I got back to it. I know I was getting a bit desperate there. It's not about how much you read, I know, but April just, it got to me. It got to me. But May, I've had a better month's reading. I've had a better month probably overall. And yeah, I'm really glad to be sharing with you the books I've read. I didn't really go into detail or depth with much of these books. The first book was, you know, the second in the duology. Couldn't really talk about that. The next one was a reread, so again it was regurgitating, you know, the past. Trying to re-review a book I've already read. Wow, words. And then that last book, which was really short and sweet, and I wanted to describe it and give it justice. I only had a minute. I always just make my reviews up on the spot. Should I script them? Probably. But I don't know, it just feels more organic and natural the way I'm just blurting them. Maybe one day I'll try scripting and writing out like a proper review, but for now, I hope you just enjoy my word vomit, and I hope you had a good reading month too. So I will see you guys in June. Bye!